Have you ever thought about how scary Xenoblade Chronicles is? No, I'm serious. I think we can all acknowledge that the series is beautiful and sad and complex and profound and a little gay, but I never hear anybody reference just how eerie it is if you really think about it. These games consistently treat the concept of just having a functional body that belongs only to an individual as something that is fragile and malleable. I'm a person who has a complicated relationship with my own body, and because of that, body horror is an aspect of the series that has always been core to my experience with it. If you're a horror fan who's skeptical at the idea of body horror in a first-party Nintendo game, first off, I don't blame you. But also, hear me out. We're going to explore body horror as an under-considered theme in Xenoblade, looking at all of the games in their release order. Now, like the video to start the demonstration, and pay no attention to the fly that snuck into the comment section with you. I promise, nothing bad will happen.
Shulk, I'm sorry.
Faced Mechon actually being people is probably Xenoblade's worst-kept secret.
Did Abraham Lincoln die?
Yeah.
We're also familiar with this plot point that I don't think any of us have sat down and thought about how horrifying the concept is. I mean, even the game glosses over it a little bit, since the focus is somewhere between, oh my god, my favorite girl, or least favorite guy is back, and oh, that's why the Monado doesn't work. Anyway, while there are many faced Mechon in the game, I'm going to use Fiora as our example. You'll see why here in a minute. Around halfway through the game, it's revealed that after Fiora was killed back at the beginning, her body was repurposed, both as a component for a faced Mechon unit that would make it immune to the Monado, and also as a vessel for the goddess Maenad. When Fiora regains consciousness for the first time after having her body sliced open, she is now more machine than human. The small bits of her that are still human have been reworked into nothing more than one gear in a larger machine. On top of this, despite having regained consciousness, she has no control over this new body. She's forced to watch as the goddess of a group of people she's only ever known as the enemy that caused her brother's disability uses what's left of her body in order to serve that enemy. It's only when Fiora is forced to watch her friends and brother risk death at her own unfamiliar hands that she is finally able to mentally cry out with enough strength to catch Maenad's attention and beg her to save her loved ones. Isn't all of that horrifying? Sure, by the end of the game, we're able to happily ever after return Fiora to being the only soul in her own human body. But for most of the story, she is forced to either backseat or cohabitate her own mangled, retrofitted corpse. In fact, once she finally gets primary control of her body back after the last events I described, the very next thing you do in-game is get help from the Machina in order to retrofit Fiora's new body so it's survivable for her without a giant robot around it. To put that into perspective, imagine the most defining and important thing happening in all of history was a war between humans and, giant spiders. Now imagine you're killed by the freakiest giant spider anyone has ever seen. Now imagine when you wake up, your body has been ripped apart and entirely reworked to function as a giant spider's organs. You're entirely conscious of what has happened to you, and yet have no control over the spider whose body you are now a part of. Instead, the giant spider's primordial goddess is in total control, only knowing your consciousness as a collection of incomprehensible tingles in the back of its mind. And then the spider eats your boyfriend. Freaky, huh?
My body! I can't control it!
When I was doing my first full run of Xenoblade Chronicles X, there was a rhythm I had in my progression. Finish a chapter, then do all available affinity missions, then all side quests, then move on to the next chapter. Rinse and repeat. I mention this because doing all available quests before Chapter 5 results in a very interesting reveal coming out just a little bit early. In Hope's affinity mission, titled Marry Me, there's a blink and you'll miss it moment where an NLA citizen that's here to ask Hope for help asks if it's even possible to have children in these Mimi's own body. I, not knowing what that word meant, was a little confused but didn't think about it too hard. That was until I finished Chapter 5 later that night. At the end of this chapter, Cross/Ryan/your character jumps into harm's way in order to protect Tatsu, and gets their fucking arm blown off. When this happens, Lyn runs up to you and shuts off your ability to feel pain. Cross stares at their removed arm, and then at the hand still attached to them, causing Elma to realize that your character, due to their amnesia, did not know they didn't inhabit an organic body. Before you get the chance to really grapple with this realization, Lyn, quote, takes you offline so you can be resuscitated back home, and your vision fades to black. This reveal is my favorite in the entire series. 5 chapters in is a perfect amount of time to finally feel like you have a comfortable understanding of what is going on with humanity on the planet Mira. In a very meta way, your shock at this reveal is one-to-one with what Cross must be feeling. All of the things that make Mims indistinguishable from actual flesh and blood, while originally intended to comfort the people who would have to inhabit them, feel at this point like a betrayal. It causes you to think back on the question that random NPC asked earlier, and wonder about its implications. Are humans even human anymore? If the only thing making anyone else human is their memories, what does that mean for Cross? This twist is so uncomfortable that I've seen people drop the game at this point, solely because they didn't like the idea that they were not who or what they thought they were. In a way, the game spends its entire remaining runtime tackling the implications of how uncomfortable this all is. Even letting Doug from Los Angeles lash out and scare people in its grand finale. It's cool, it's uncomfortable, it's very sci-fi, and it's why Xenoblade X actually does have a story that I love so much.
How could you ally with the mortals? With your power, this could have been over long ago!
Oh boy. Xenoblade 2 simultaneously has the most examples of uncomfortable, icky, body horror-esque pieces, while also making them so wrapped up in the setting that they're harder to identify as such. This is because, in every case, this theme of a person's body being altered and unstable is explored in one way or another through blades. In Xenoblade 2, blades are treated as less than people, despite being the core of everything that All Rest is. Their disenfranchisement is important to the themes of the game as a whole, and the way their bodies are treated is an expansion of this theme. This is, for example, what is being highlighted in the scene where Jin confronts the party in Temperantia. When he murders Fan Lenore, who he knows is Haze, it's not out of malice or to improve his chances of winning, it's because he is horrified at what has been done to her, and he sees her death as the only way that she can be freed. Amalthus stealing part of her body for his own gain, and becoming her driver on top of this, is an extension of the mistreatment of blades in a systemic and political context. To Jin, and hopefully to you as the player, every core crystal going through Amalthus is just as much a horrifying removal of autonomy as Amalthus physically dismembering them. When we see Amalthus in the World Tree at the end of the game, mutated and deformed from all of the blades he's ripped apart and consumed, we're seeing him the way Jin sees Allrest and humanity as a whole. If it hasn't hit the player at that point, it's supposed to occur to them how horrifying it is that Amalthus used his authority as Praetor to victimize both the blades he mandated second-class citizens and the refugees that he created. When Zeke had part of Pandoria's core crystal implanted into his body, the intention was not to altruistically save them both. It was an experiment that led to the monster in front of you. When Jin was forced to kill and consume Laura, it was out of fear and desperation. It was something as horrible in concept as it was for Jin to experience and remember. The world of Xenoblade 2 is quick to view that action as repulsive and unforgivable, something that makes a blade nothing more than a monster. Like with Blade Eaters, though, Flesh Eaters are ideologically an atrocity caused by Amalthus and the conditions he created. One that victimizes both humans and blades, leaving Amalthus as the only one with something to gain. I just realized I'm doing a Jin was right video again. Sorry, we'll move on to the next game.
This can't be real! Not now! Not here!
Xenoblade 3 is as explicit as body horror gets in this series. Like the game's gameplay and world, it serves as an amalgamation of all the themes we've talked about already. Ionios is a world where human bodies are born from incubators. They mature rapidly in order to serve their sole purpose as soldiers, but counterintuitively have a maximum life expectancy of only 10 years. Like Xenoblade 1, human bodies have been dismembered and reassembled so they might serve a purpose their owners never agreed to. Like Xenoblade X, the things taken from these people, things that should be immutable and natural, have been robbed under false pretenses. The natural and biological processes that arguably make people have been stripped from humanity. And finally, like in Xenoblade 2, all of this is tied into the removal of these people's autonomy, culture, and history. Colony Omega even shows us that the exploitation of and experimentation on blades hasn't gone away. It's simply expanded to include every race on the planet. Except Nopon. That's weird, right? Nopon are weird. Writing this video has been weird for me. As a chronically ill person, the way that Xenoblade as a series handles the reality of just having a body has somehow, paradoxically, been a comfort to me. Making a project like this about that comfort, however, made my escape from my own body and my body's limitations come head to head in a way I wasn't prepared for. Every day for the last 2 weeks, I've wanted to work on this video. and every day I've been prevented by my own body. The pain in my muscles, the difficulty concentrating or forming coherent ideas, the light sensitivity that forces me to keep windows closed and screens off, all being caused by the permanent inflammation of my brain and spine, are already insurmountable obstacles when I'm trying to do something like use the bathroom or eat or bathe. Finding the capability to push through all of that and make my silly little internet videos has been a constant battle. That struggle, simultaneously, is why I feel so passionately about this subject. Thinking about Fiora, trapped in her own mangled and unrecognizable body, crying out to try to have a positive impact on the people she cares about, makes me feel human. Seeing my own experiences, even through a warped and fantastical lens, reminds me that in my soul, in whatever it is that is me, I'm a person, regardless of everything else. Do I expect that anyone watching this will totally understand the way I see this first-party Nintendo game as body horror? Or that somehow that assessment is something that I'm using to feel better? Not really, no. I do know, however, that the happiest version of me, disability or no, is a version of me that's overanalyzing Xenoblade. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing. Hi, thanks for watching. This video was definitely abstract compared to what I've put out before, but it was between disjointed and not existing at all, so here it is. If you like fantasy games, I hope you'll hit some buttons down there and stick around for whatever I do next. If you're still here somehow, let me know what your favorite piece of body horror is down in the comments. I am very, very tired, so I'm gonna go lay down now. Love you, bye.